God, it's going too slow. And oh, by the way, there's no noise at all.
Welcome to WatchMojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 creepiest mysteries you've never heard of.
The absence of any scrap of wreckage soon gives rise to some wild theories.
For this list, we're looking at the strangest and most puzzling mysteries in human history that have gotten little to no public attention. Which of these would you most like to see solved? Let us know in the comments. Hey Mojoholics! For a chance to win cash prizes, play our live daily trivia challenges every day at 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern only at WatchMojo.com/play. Number 20. Bimini Road. Just off the coast of North Bimini Island in the Bahamas lies a half-a-mile underwater path made up of large rectangular limestone blocks.
The Bimini Road has inspired fascination since the 1960s.
Due to the unusual precision and regularity of the blocks, many have questioned its natural formation. One popular theory suggests that it could be a long-lost road to Atlantis.
Conditions are near perfect. The team are able to examine what actually lies beneath this fascinating structure. It seems like there are two layers to some of the road.
Further lending credence to this theory is the fact that about 30 years before it was discovered, American clairvoyant Edgar Cayce talked about a road to Atlantis being discovered near Bimini. Geologists argue that it is a naturally occurring formation, but there are still some in the scientific community who dispute that. As such, the true origin of the Bimini Road remains a captivating enigma.
I don't think anybody can dive in Bimini and not believe that these are man-made artifacts.
Number 19. The JAMISON family deaths. In October 2009, Bobby Jamison, his wife Cheryl Lynn, and their daughter Madison disappeared from their hometown of Eufaula, Oklahoma under mysterious circumstances.
But when relatives discovered they hadn't returned after 4 days, they started to panic.
A few days later, authorities found their abandoned truck in a remote location, but no signs of the family. Discovered in the truck were the Jamisons' malnourished dog, their phones and IDs, and a large amount of cash. Police also retrieved security footage from their home, showing the couple loading up their truck in an eerily silent and strange manner.
It took them an extremely long time to load the truck. They made 30, 40 trips, it seemed like.
Multiple theories have been put forward, including a faked death situation and a drug deal gone awry, but none has been substantiated. The family's remains were discovered 4 years later, but the true circumstances around their disappearance and death remain a mystery.
I do think that they must have seen something they shouldn't have seen, because nothing else makes sense.
Number 18. The strange disappearance of Paula Jean Weldon. Paula Jean Weldon, a sophomore at Bennington College in Vermont, disappeared on December 1, 1946 while hiking on Vermont's Long Trail. She was reported missing by her roommate after failing to return to her room. Multiple people spotted her along the trail, including other hikers. Yet she seemingly vanished without a trace. An extensive search was launched afterwards, with her school even shutting down for days to allow staff and students to participate. The investigation into Weldon's disappearance was, however, hampered by the fact that there was no statewide police in Vermont at the time. Till today, no one knows what happened to Weldon, but the case led to the creation of the Vermont State Police the following year. Number 17. The curious case of Mary Reeser. Throughout history, there have been multiple reported cases of spontaneous human combustion, but perhaps none has gained more attention than that of Mary Reeser. On July 2, 1951, Reeser was discovered almost completely incinerated in her St. Petersburg, Florida apartment. All that was left of her were a couple of bone fragments and her left foot. Mysteriously, the rest of her apartment was largely undisturbed, with only a few nearby items affected by the heat. This inexplicable level of destruction puzzled investigators, leading to the rise of the theory of spontaneous human combustion. However, the FBI argued that the fire was ignited by a cigarette Reeser was smoking, with her body fat and nightgown acting as fuel for the fire. Number 16. The mysterious fate of the USS Cyclops. It's quite a strange occurrence for the largest ship in the US Navy to just disappear without a trace. But that was indeed what happened during World War I when the USS Cyclops departed Brazil for Baltimore.
One day out of port, she enters some of the deepest waters in the Bermuda Triangle area and simply disappears.
The 542-foot-long collier, which was transporting tons of manganese ore, vanished alongside the 306 persons on board. It was initially believed that the vessel was sunk in an attack by the Germans, but they have maintained no knowledge or involvement in its fate.
There was a Washington, D.C. newspaper that claimed that she had been taken over and had been turned into a pirate ship.
Since then, one lingering theory is that the USS Cyclops must have fallen prey to the infamous Bermuda Triangle. More than a century later, the disappearance remains unsolved, eluding the mind of anyone who contemplates the fate of the USS Cyclops.
So did the triangle's turbulent seas produce a freak wave large enough to sink the Cyclops?
Number 15, the Oakville Blobs. In the summer of 1994, residents of the small town of Oakville, Washington woke up to find tiny blobs that seemed to have rained down from the sky.
No one was really concerned until they realized that it wasn't raining rain. It was raining tiny blobs of gelatinous goo.
These translucent gelatinous substances were described as being half the size of a grain of rice. As strange as they were, what made them particularly creepy were the bizarre effects they seemed to have on the town. Residents experienced flu-like symptoms and respiratory infections, and some animals were said to have died.
I got sick, my wife got sick, my daughter, everybody that lived here got sick.
Upon testing, the blobs were found to contain 2 species of bacteria, although both are usually known to be harmless. Multiple theories have since been suggested, but no definitive conclusion has been reached as to the origins of the Oakville blobs.
Maybe we were a biological experiment of some kind, a small one, maybe just get people a little bit sick.
Number 14, the Pollock Sisters. The idea of reincarnation has long been heavily debated, and some proponents tout this case as evidence for it. In May 1957, 2 sisters, Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock, lost their lives in a car accident. The following year, the parents welcomed twin girls, Jillian and Jennifer, despite only 1 heartbeat being detected during the pregnancy. These twins shared many similarities with their deceased sisters, including birthmarks, preferences, and behaviors. They also seemed to recollect memories only their sisters knew, and developed a strange fear of cats. The girls were profiled by a professor of psychiatry as an example of reincarnation, but many have dismissed the case as a hoax, arguing that the family simply fed the past memories to the twins. Number 13, the Overtoun Bridge. Located near Dumbarton in Scotland, the Overtoun Bridge was constructed in 1895. What makes this seemingly ordinary bridge so creepy is the inexplicable phenomenon of dogs leaping to their deaths from it.
And it just leapt right over the bridge.
It's been reported that since the 1950s, about 600 dogs have jumped off this bridge, seemingly for no reason, with some of them suffering fatal injuries. Some local residents believe that the structure and the Overtoun house that it leads to are haunted by spirits who call out to the dogs.
They're being, in a sense, lured to the edge of the bridge walls by this figure.
Another possible explanation suggests that the canines are attracted to the smell of certain animals underneath the bridge. With no definitive cause found yet, we'll advise just keeping your dogs off this bridge.
Could some overpowering smell at the bottom of the bridge be driving dogs to jump?
Number 12, the TOYNBEE tiles. Located in several cities across North and South America, the TOYNBEE tiles are a series of linoleum blocks embedded in the asphalt of seemingly random streets.
It was this tile, like a floor tile or whatever, embedded in the asphalt in the crosswalk that bears this message on it.
These enigmatic tiles contain cryptic messages that often refer to death, and have confounded people since they began popping up in the 1980s. They take their name from their usual inscription found on them, which is believed to be a reference to the British historian Arnold J. Toynbee.
The Toynbee referenced is almost definitely the historian Arnold Toynbee.
Who installed these tiles, how they were able to achieve that without detection, and what they actually mean still remain a mystery to this day. The peculiar nature of the tiles and their random placements have sparked numerous theories, some of which were addressed in a 2011 documentary film.
I would walk over the tiles over and over and over and over again, so I would think about them every single day. And, you know, I would just constantly think, like, I wonder how long they've been there, I wonder what they mean.
Number 11, the Circleville letters. Beginning in the late 1970s, an unknown individual rained terror on the residents of Circleville, Ohio. This still unidentified figure began sending out threatening letters that exposed alleged secrets of the town's residents. The first target of the letters was the bus driver, a woman named Mary Gillespie, who was alleged to have had an affair with the local school superintendent.
In addition to allegations of an affair, the letter carried an ominous threat.
Gillespie's husband Ron was also targeted, and the following year he died in a mysterious accident after receiving a call from someone believed to be the letter writer.
Somewhere in between leaving the house and hitting that tree, his gun had fired one shot.
Ron's brother-in-law was eventually named as the writer and sent to prison for attempting to murder Gillespie, but the letters continued. To date, no one knows for sure who was behind the Circleville letters.
Paul Freshour was finally granted parole after serving 10 years. To this day, he maintains his innocence, and he's sure that the real criminal is still at large.
Number 10, the severed feet mystery. It'll probably not make headlines if one human foot washes up ashore. But when 21 feet, usually still wearing sneakers, are found on the shores of the same sea, it is sure to raise a few eyebrows. The first discovery was made in August 2007 in British Columbia, Canada, with some others found in multiple towns in the U.S. state of Washington.
It's the 13th foot found in British Columbia since 2007.
Some of the feet have since been linked to people who were either declared missing or had mental health issues. It's been posited that the occurrence of the severed limbs is due to a combination of body decomposition and the buoyancy of New Age sneakers. Regardless, questions still linger about why this seems to only occur in this particular sea.
Without much to work with, DNA and the brand and manufacturing date of the shoes are the best clues investigators have in what is a growing mystery.
Number 9. The Unexplained Phoenix Lights. On March 13, 1997, thousands of people in Arizona and Nevada reported seeing a series of lights appear in the sky.
They were white like stars when they were coming towards us.
These lights were arranged in a V formation and spanned a vast area, silently moving across the cities. The phenomenon was observed for about 3 hours that night, with some people taking pictures and videos. The official explanation given by the authorities was that the lights belonged to military aircraft that were engaged in training exercises. But this was met with a lot of skepticism.
I've seen them from the ground, I've seen them from the air, and these weren't flares.
Even the then governor of Arizona, Fife Symington, who was a pilot himself, described the event as, quote, otherworldly. It remains one of the most notable and perplexing UFO events in modern history.
Did the Phoenix Lights come from somewhere beyond the stars?
Number 8. The mysterious sleeping sickness. Throughout history, there have been multiple pandemics that have brought the entire world to a standstill. One of the least known ones is the sleeping sickness pandemic of the early 20th century. Between 1915 and 1926, around the same time the influenza pandemic ravaged the world, a sleeping disease claimed the lives of more than 500,000 people. Known scientifically as encephalitis lethargica, this disease left sufferers in a statue-like condition, unable to speak or move their bodies. In fact, some patients who survived the pandemic reportedly never regained full control of their motor functions. Although the disease mysteriously disappeared in 1927, scientists remain puzzled over its origin and cause, as well as how it can be transmitted. Number 7. The Havana Syndrome. Starting sometime in 2016, diplomatic personnel in Cuba began to experience a weird range of health problems such as memory loss, hearing loss, and nausea.
Doctors said that diplomats' brain matter had actually changed. What started out as a mysterious nuisance became a suspected instrument of attack.
Follow-up studies found that there was evidence of brain injuries. However, when questioned, the victims said that they'd heard a strange noise like a grating sound or marbles rolling on the floor, although others nearby did not hear this.
A source says starting last December, the U.S. officials were exposed to a sonic device, which experts suggest could produce sound waves below and above human hearing, which could cause these symptoms.
Quasi-unusual, but when recordings of the sound were captured, the closest thing researchers could find were Jamaican field crickets, which are harmless.
The recording is just one of the many sounds taken in Cuba that led investigators to initially believe it was a sonic weapon.
No cause has been found, and theories range from microwave weapons to pesticides.
Who or what caused it? A mystery.
The United States government is still not sure who or what is responsible for those health attacks.
Number 6. The Ghost Blimp. Picture it. 1942 off the coast of California. 2 U.S. Navy pilots command the Navy's L-8 blimp in search of Japanese submarines in waters not so far from San Francisco.
There were known to be Japanese submarines operating off the coast. There had been an attack on an oil refinery down near Santa Monica, Los Angeles. There was a great fear that there would be more attacks.
They radio flight control about an oil slick on the water and are never heard from again. A few hours later, that very same L-8 blimp crashes into a cliff with no one on board. Everything in or about the craft was working normally, the throttles were idle, and more eerily, the parachutes and lifeboat were still on board. To this day, no one knows what happened, and the personnel involved were never found. Number 5. The OURANG MEDAN. In 1947, American vessels picked up an SOS call from a Dutch vessel, the SS OURANG MEDAN. The message was a chilling one. SOS from OURANG MEDAN. We float, probably whole of crew dead. I die. Finding the ship also meant finding corpses with gaping eyes and mouths. Soon after, while under tow, the ship caught fire and exploded. Stranger still, there are apparently no registration records for the ship, while the Coast Guard didn't report the story until the mid-50s. Theories tend to focus on government cover-ups due to possible chemical weapons on board. This story even served as the basis for the 2019 video game The Dark Pictures anthology, The Man of Medan. Number 4. The Tunguska Event. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, a large explosion blasted the area near the Tunguska River in Russia, flattening some 80 million trees over some 800 square miles of forest.
Millions of pine trees, larches and birches are destroyed by the pressure wave and the fires. A shockwave circles the world, leaving its mark on seismographs everywhere. But no one can understand where it has come from.
For years, scientists debated what could have caused such an explosion.
Shockwaves rippled across Europe. The night sky was illuminated for weeks after, and people were able to read their newspapers in the middle of the night from London to Asia.
It's classified as the largest impact event ever recorded, but no impact crater was ever found. Instead, researchers found 5 miles of scorched trees directly in the center that were somehow still standing. In 2013, however, a team from the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine analyzed rock samples from the site and concluded it was likely a meteor exploding in midair.
Researchers studied microscopic fragments of decayed vegetation dating back to the time of the event and discovered mineral combinations perfectly consistent with other meteorite impact sites, like the 50,000-year-old meteor crater in Arizona.
Number 3. The Bay of Jars. Brazil's Guanabara Bay contains a lot of trash. But the trash that people cannot explain is the 200 or so Roman ceramic jars found submerged in an underwater field the size of 3 tennis courts. According to experts, these jars trace back to the 3rd century. However, European explorers didn't even reach Brazil until 1500, and the Romans themselves had little to no incentive to travel that far out. Thus, it's a complete mystery why their artifacts would be found there. Meanwhile, Brazil closed off the area in 1983, so it's unlikely an answer will ever be found. Number 2. The VOYNICH manuscript. If you haven't heard of this one, strap in. The VOYNICH manuscript is a mysterious 250-page book written in a completely unknown language and containing odd, otherworldly sketches.
There are theories that the book might have been written in a kind of encoded Latin, or that an alien wrote it while being held captive in a monastery, or that Leonardo da Vinci wrote it as a child.
Its origin is unable to be fully traced, so no one knows who created it, let alone why, but carbon dating puts it in the early 15th century.
Cryptologists say the writing has all the characteristics of a real language, just one that no one's ever seen before. What makes it seem real is that in actual languages, letters and groups of letters appear with consistent frequencies, and the language in the VOYNICH manuscript has patterns you wouldn't find from a random letter generator.
So far, no one has been able to decode the script it's written in, despite being worked on by professional code breakers from both World War I and World War II. What strange message lies inside this uncrackable book?
The truth is, after decades of dedicated study to try and solve the mystery, this strange book seems likely to remain one of our most enduring historical codes to crack.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Max Headroom Hijack. In 1987, 2 television stations in Chicago were hijacked in perhaps the most surreal act of video piracy ever recorded.
It takes some pretty significant equipment, technical equipment, and some knowledge of broadcast frequencies, microwave frequencies, and a lot of power.
Both instances featured an unidentified man dressed as obscure TV personality Max Headroom dancing to distorted audio. The second video, significantly longer, saw the man rambling incoherently in a distorted voice and being swatted on the behind by an off-screen accomplice.
Some dry clothes. Because he's a freaking nerd. I think I'm better than Chuck Swirsky. Freaking nerd. Oh, Jesus.
The segments lasted no more than a couple of minutes, but have gone down as among the most notorious incidents in television history. No one has ever identified who pulled it off or even why. We can only hope someone comes forward after all this time to put an end to this mystery.
My brother is wearing the other one, but it's dirty. It's got footprints on it. Oh.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.